Stop. Just stop for a second. You woke up tired today, didn't you? Maybe you slept 7, 8 hours. Maybe even 9. And you still dragged yourself out of bed like your body was made of wet cement. You told yourself, I just need coffee. Or maybe, I need a vacation. Or the classic, I'm just not a morning person. But what if none of that is true? What if you're not actually tired? What if you're withdrawing? Here's something most people never think about. The human brain wasn't designed for the world we've built around it. Every notification, every scroll, every autoplay video, they're not just habits. They may be something closer to a chemical loop your brain literally cannot stop running. And the exhaustion you feel? That could be what withdrawal actually feels like. Neuroscientist Anna Lemke, in her book Dopamine Nation, puts it this way: when we constantly flood the brain's reward system, it compensates by producing less dopamine naturally. The result isn't just low motivation. It's a kind of fog, a flatness, a tiredness that sleep doesn't fix. That's what we're talking about today. This video will walk you through 5 things that are quietly draining your energy, not through overwork, but through overstimulation. Some of these will feel uncomfortable to hear. Good. That means they're hitting somewhere real. Number 1. Your phone isn't relaxing you. It's resetting your baseline. Here's the part nobody talks about when they say doom scrolling is bad for you. It's not just about wasting time. It's about what happens to your brain's expectations after 30 minutes of rapid-fire content. Each new video, each new post, each notification hit, they deliver a small pulse of dopamine. Harmless, right? 1 pulse. Fine. But the brain is an adaptation machine. It doesn't experience that pulse and say, great, I'm satisfied. It recalibrates. It raises the floor. Now ordinary things, a conversation, a walk, reading a page of a book, they register as boring, understimulating, almost painful to sit with. Psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, who spent decades studying human attention and happiness, found that people report their lowest moods not when they're working hard, but when they're doing nothing structured, passively consuming without any real engagement. The scroll isn't rest. It may be one of the most cognitively exhausting things we do, precisely because it demands constant attention while delivering nothing that actually satisfies. So you put the phone down, and you feel restless, anxious even. That's not coincidence. That's your brain asking, almost begging, for the next hit. And you call it being tired. Number 2. Chronic stimulation breaks your ability to feel pleasure normally. This one might sting a little. Think about the last time you felt genuinely, quietly happy, not excited, not stimulated, just content. Sitting somewhere, looking at something ordinary, feeling okay. For a lot of people, that feeling has become weirdly hard to access. There's a concept in neuroscience called hedonic adaptation, the brain's tendency to normalize pleasure over time, requiring greater and greater inputs to produce the same emotional response. It's most associated with addiction research, but researchers now suggest it applies broadly to modern digital consumption patterns too. Consider this. A child in the 1980s could spend 45 minutes watching clouds move across the sky and call it a good afternoon. That's not nostalgia talking. That's a brain operating at its natural stimulation threshold. Now take that same child, raise them with YouTube Shorts and TikTok from age 8, and what happens to their threshold? It likely shifts significantly. You're not lazy. Your brain has been trained to expect a fireworks show. So when life gives you a candle, it genuinely doesn't register as light. The fix isn't about willpower. It's about recalibration, deliberately choosing low stimulation activities long enough for the baseline to shift back down. Boring walks, long meals without your phone, reading physical books. Not because they're trendy, because they're slow, and slow is exactly what an overstimulated nervous system needs. Number 3. Sleep is being stolen from you in plain sight. You're getting hours of sleep, but not quality sleep. There's a difference, and it's massive. Here's what most people don't realize. Blue light from screens suppresses melatonin production. That part's well known. But the less discussed issue is cognitive arousal, the state your brain enters when it's been exposed to emotionally charged, fast-moving content right before bed. Even after the screen goes dark, your nervous system may still be running. Sleep researcher Matthew Walker describes it this way. The brain during REM sleep is essentially doing emotional processing, filing the day's experiences, and restoring cognitive function. But if you've spent the last hour before bed cycling through arguments on social media, catastrophic news headlines, and comparison-inducing highlight reels, your brain enters sleep with too much unresolved material to process efficiently. You sleep, but you don't recover. You wake up tired and reach for your phone to feel better, and the loop continues. One study published in the journal Sleep Medicine found that adolescents who used screens within an hour of bedtime reported significantly worse sleep quality, even when total sleep duration was identical to non-screen users. It appears the content of the stimulation matters as much as the timing. So the tiredness isn't from sleeping too little. It may be from recovering too poorly. Number 4. Decision fatigue is draining you before noon. Here's a question. How many choices have you made today before breakfast? What to wear? What to eat? Whether to check your messages? Which messages to reply to first? Whether to feel guilty about the ones you ignored? What to watch while you ate? Whether that thing someone posted was about you? Psychologist Roy Baumeister's research on willpower suggests that decision-making draws from a finite cognitive resource, one that depletes with use, regardless of whether the decisions feel significant. Small choices wear it down just as surely as large ones. The modern digital environment is, in some ways, a nonstop decision generator. Every app, every feed, every notification presents you with a micro-choice: engage or ignore, react or scroll past, reply now or later. These feel trivial. They are not trivial to your brain. By 11 a.m., many people have already made hundreds of these micro-decisions. And then they sit down to do something that actually matters: creative work, studying, a real conversation, and they feel empty, flat, unable to focus. They think they need motivation. What they actually need is cognitive rest, which is not the same as entertainment. Real cognitive rest is doing less, choosing less, and letting the mind wander without direction. The people who seem to have unlimited energy, they've usually built systems that eliminate unnecessary decisions. Not because they're disciplined, because they understand where energy actually goes. Number 5. You've lost the ability to be bored, and that's a problem. Boredom is not a bug. It's a feature. Psychologist Sandy Mann at the University of Central Lancashire has studied boredom for years, and her findings may surprise you. Boredom appears to be a precursor to creativity. When the mind isn't occupied with incoming stimulation, it begins to generate its own. It wanders. It connects unrelated ideas. It solves problems you didn't know you were holding, but only if you let it. Most people now reach for their phones within seconds of boredom appearing. Standing in line, sitting in a waiting room, the 30-second pause before a meeting starts. Every gap gets filled, and what looks like efficiency, never wasting a moment, may actually be the slow erosion of your mind's ability to think independently. There's something worth noticing here. The most original ideas in history rarely came from busy minds. Newton's apple didn't fall while he was scrolling. Archimedes wasn't multitasking in that bathtub. The mind needs unoccupied time to do its most interesting work. What would happen if you sat with boredom for 10 minutes tomorrow? Not meditating, not journaling, just sitting, uncomfortable, present, curious about what your mind does next. You might be surprised, or you might just feel restless and reach for your phone again. Either way, now you'll know what's actually happening when you do. So let's land this plane. You are not broken. You are not lazy. You're not even that tired. Not in the way you think. What you may be is a person living inside systems specifically engineered to keep your brain in a state of perpetual low-grade stimulation. And stimulation, sustained long enough, starts to feel indistinguishable from exhaustion. The philosopher Blaise Pascal once wrote that all of humanity's problems stem from the inability to sit quietly in a room alone. He wrote that in the 1600s, centuries before the smartphone. Imagine what he'd make of 2025. The good news is that brains are plastic. They adapt. The same mechanism that shifted your baseline up can shift it back down, given time, intention, and a willingness to tolerate a little discomfort along the way. You don't need a 2-week digital detox retreat. You don't need to throw your phone into a river. You need small, consistent acts of choosing less stimulation. A phone-free morning, a walk without headphones, 5 minutes of nothing before bed. Small shifts, sustained over time. That's how baselines change. And the version of you that can sit quietly, think clearly, feel genuinely rested, that person isn't lost. They're just waiting underneath all that noise. If this video made you think, give it a like. Share it with someone who always says they're tired. Subscribe for more content that goes a little deeper than the surface. And leave a comment telling me, which of these 5 hit the hardest for you?